All right, so I'm gonna break up the rotation on the judges. I want to do something a little bit different this morning and revisit a blog that I did a long time ago. I actually found some more stuff on it, and it's really crazy. I kind of been excited to share this, so let's do it. Is Elijah John the Baptist? Crazy question. Short answer is yes. In Matthew 11:14, Jesus says it specifically. And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. He who has ears, let him hear. And that is based on the prophecy in Malachi and Isaiah. Basically, I will send my messenger ahead of you who will prepare your way before you. So there's got to be more details than just that, right? I mean, as if that's not good enough, Lord and Savior says it, the Bible's a parable. It's a story. It's a story of redemption, story of our history, but it also is a parable. So are there more details to kind of back that up? Yes, and it's really, really wild. So first, the description of John the Baptist is a man in the woods, a wilderness man who wore a garment of camel hair and a leather belt around his waist. Ate locusts and raw honey in the woods. Now, that is, yes, it is a wild description of John the Baptist to give you an idea of who this guy is, but it is a key. It's a piece of the puzzle to really back up the point that Elijah is John the Baptist. And in order for that to happen, it's really wild. Think of it. Like when we die, we're told our soul either goes up or goes down. So theoretically, our soul doesn't die. It's alive. It's not alive. It's a spiritual being. It's part of God, and it's part of the spiritual realm. So then technically, could one spirit be taken from a human body and then put into another human body? Short answer is obviously yes, because God made everything. But, let's have some fun. Are there details in the Bible that back that up? So with that being said, now Elijah was a prophet, a big prophet, a very known prophet, important prophet in the time of the kings. The significance of that comes in later on, but I have to explain that. So at that point, the kings, a lot of different kings, Israel was doing good, it was doing bad, doing good, doing bad. So the point is there were a lot of eyes on what was happening. Now, 2 Kings 1:8, the description of Elijah. Face value, and they answered him, he was a hairy man, and girt with a girdle of leather about his loins. And he said, it is Elijah the Tishbite. But if you look at Hebrew, he was an Ishbaal Sayar, meaning a man owning a garment of camel hair. And he girt with a izor or a belt of leather about his waist. So same clothing as John the Baptist, garment of camel hair with a leather belt around his waist. The problem with translation is that's missed with Elijah when they describe him as a hairy man. But this is my new findings on this thing of how more deep this thing goes. Now, 2 Kings 2:8. Before I read that, so the story of Elijah is he's a known prophet. Chariot of fire comes and takes him to heaven, and then he passes his mantle to Elijah. And then Elijah's a lesser prophet, and he does a bunch of stuff and blah. The point is he passes his mantle. Now, Elijah took his Adarat, this is very key, and rolled it up and struck the waters, and they were split from here and from there, so that they too crossed over onto dry land. So Elijah rolled up his Adarat, his mantle or his cloak, his garment, and struck the waters, and they split. Now, Adarat can refer to mantle, cloak, or robe, especially a special or magnificent one, and also carries the meaning of glory or splendor. The word is the feminine form of a root meaning glorious, and was used to describe the special garments of prophets. So in 2:8, Elijah used it, wrapped it up, struck waters, and they split. Now, this is really, really crazy because it plays into the giants thing too. 1 Kings 19. And he said, "Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake." So Elijah he doesn't see God because you can't see him, but he witnesses the passing of God, who is monumental. And when he passes, the air that goes by knocks the mountains over. So where do giants come from, right? But specifically, and it was so when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entering on the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? So he wraps his mantle around his head in the presence of God, and then he hears God's voice. So this mantle has some special abilities in some form or fashion. That is why that is the key between is Elijah, John, because John's mentioned. The first thing you hear about is John, it's what he's wearing. That's the key in the parable. God's telling us, if you do your research, you'll figure this out. Now, in 2 Kings 2, so when the chariot comes and gets Elijah, the only thing Elisha sees it, witnesses it, the only thing that drops is Elijah's mantle, his cloak, his clothes. Prophet witnesses a prophet get taken. The only thing that drops is the mantle. He's already seen it do specific things and wondrous things. Now this is where it gets super deep. And when the sons of the prophets, which were to view at Jericho, saw him, they said, The spirit of Elijah doth rest on Elijah, because Elijah had put it on. Now this is where it gets wild. So again, in the time of Kings, I mentioned there's a lot of eyes on everything. So everybody is aware. Believers and non-believers are aware of Elijah, and they're aware of this crazy clothes that he's wearing, to the point that when Elijah is taken and Elijah is wearing the cloak, it is immediately recognized, oh, boom, he's got the spirit of Elijah. Now, to back this up, this is where it gets really, really good. In Zechariah, so at the end of the Old Testament, there's a few small prophetic books. In Zechariah 13:4, and it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed of every one of his vision when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. But in Hebrew, that is, neither shall they wear an adaret sayar, a garment of hair or a hairy mantle to deceive. What that's saying is Elijah was so known as being an actual prophet that false prophets were putting on garments of hair to deceive, to say, I'm just like dude, I got the same clothes. That's why we get the description of John the Baptist wearing that same clothes. Again, that's a puzzle piece telling us this is how significant Elijah was. This is things that were happening. And here you have John the Baptist wearing the same thing, a special garment, a special mantle. For those who have ears to hear,